It's a rainy day in Philly, so I'm making a tuna melt. First, say hello to yourself in a shiny metal bowl. Then open a can of tuna, drain the excess water, and dump it in. Then add some crunchy stuff. I'm doing a very classic combination here, celery and dill pickles. You want to dice the celery up really fine, which, by the way, is super easy and fun because celery has these ribs on it that basically act like a built-in knife channel, guide, something like that. The point is, they're really easy to slice perfectly, and like I said, it's kind of fun to do. And you're going to want to use about half a stalk of celery per sandwich. So I'm just making one sandwich for myself, which means that I will have a bonus piece of celery that I can enjoy as an appetizer. Same thing with the pickles. These are medium-sized pickles, so I'm going to use half of this pickle for my sandwich, but really you're just eyeballing it, you know, what amount of pickle looks good to you. It's really that simple. When you add the veggies, that's really the time that you can customize this. Anything crunchy would be awesome, like a bell pepper, green onion, even a finely diced carrot would work really well. Then you want to add mayonnaise. I would say that's about 2 tablespoons, but again, there's no real recipe here. You just kind of make it to your liking. If you want more mayo, add more mayo. If you want less mayo, you get the point. Then add some seasonings. I'm going with smoked paprika, cayenne and fresh cracked black pepper, and a tiny pinch of salt. The pickles are salty and the cheese is salty and most canned tuna is salted, so you really don't need much, teeny tiny pinch, and we're gonna taste it at the end anyway and make sure it doesn't need any more. While you're watching me stir this, let me tell you about a little mistake I made. Oh, told you it was raining. Before I did anything else, I should have put my cast iron skillet over low heat to let it preheat evenly so that by the time it was hot, there weren't any hot or cool spots. I didn't do that. I didn't put my skillet on the stove until moments after this, which you'll see in a second here. And that caused a little bit of some uneven toasting on the bread later. Now, it wasn't a big deal. I was able to fix it, and I'll show you how. But the easiest thing to do is just put your skillet on early over low heat. Another little trick is to put your cheese in the freezer for like 5 minutes before you grate it, and it makes it easier to grate. Yes, you can use sliced cheese, but grating is better because it melts more evenly and it takes like 2 minutes to do, so just grate it. Then taste your tuna salad, see if it needs anything. Mine tasted good, but honestly it was a little boring, so I added more cayenne and more black pepper. So when it comes to your ingredients and your ratios, you can really play fast and loose with this recipe. Just kind of do whatever you want. But when it comes to the technique here, you do want to be a little bit fastidious. Make sure that the tuna salad goes on in a very even layer. You want uniform thickness so that there is uniform browning and toasting and everything comes to the same temperature. So make sure that you lay your tuna salad on the bread evenly and likewise with the cheese. From here, the technique is basically just making a grilled cheese sandwich. So you have your sandwich put together, we're gonna put the other piece of bread on there. I keep my butter in the fridge, which means that it's really not easy to spread. So here is something else you can do. Use mayo instead. Mayo is basically just eggs and oil, which create really good browning on toast or even on a piece of meat. So again, spreading it very, very evenly so that we get even browning. I'm gonna coat side A with mayo and get it in the skillet and push down on it a little bit to make sure there's really good even contact. So what you'll see here in a second when I flip it is I had a hot spot in the center of my skillet. So you're gonna see that one side of the toast is really golden, crunchy, toasty, and then the other side is not. This is what you do, by the way, if your butter is not spreadable because you keep it in the fridge like me, is you just cut some thin pats out and kind of distribute it around. And then when you flip it, it's gonna instantly melt and coat everything and it'll be fine. Anyway, check this out here. All right, so half of that is really nice and crunchy toasted, the other half not so much. Not a huge deal. What I'm gonna focus on is getting side B toasted perfectly. So you'll see what I do here. That's why I kind of swirl it around the pan. I make sure that there's really even contact with all the different surfaces of the pan to try to equalize the heat differential there. And then once that side is done, I'm actually going to flip it back to side A. and I'm going to situate the lesser toasted side over the center of the pan, which is where that hot spot is. So the side that's already toasted to my liking is on the cooler part of the pan. Now this won't happen if you are smarter than I am and you just preheat your pan for longer and make sure it's nice and evenly at temperature. But if you screw up, you can fix it. All right, now I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. At the end of the day, you're the only person who has to look at yourself in the mirror. But if you're not cutting your sandwiches diagonally, what are you doing? Anyway, make sure you get a shot for Instagram and take a big old bite. This was so tasty. So simple, so tasty, and look, the sun's even come out. Honestly, I should have used more cheese. I thought it was really delicious, but I could have gone with a lot more melty, gooey factor. So I was probably too conservative on the cheese. I could have used, I don't know, 50% more, maybe even twice as much, although that would have been pretty outrageous. I also just stood over the sink and bulldozed that entire half a sandwich. Hopefully you can see between my ravenous bites that both sides of the sandwich were toasted perfectly. So yeah, next rainy day, make a tuna melt.